welcome everyone to another Updates from the Field. If we haven't met before, my name is Jason Van Hove. I'm a pastor here at Harvest Vineyard. And this recording is something that we do on a regular basis where we try to connect with people who are at work in the field, whether that means internationally or locally, that are sent from our church family and doing work all around the world. And it's a great time where we get to hear about what is happening in their field of ministry that God has given them and how they're extending the kingdom of God. So we're really thankful for people like you, Chad. I'm excited we get to sit and talk with you today. Welcome to the call today.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. I was wondering if you could just start us out and share a little bit about, for those of us, I mean, I know that many people in our church family do know you and your family, but for those of us who don't, could you share just a little bit about your family and your life right now?
Yeah. So my name's Chad Britten, and we are part of Harvest. My wife is Sarah Britten, and you might see her occasionally in the Kingdom's kids downstairs, and we have 4 children. Noah, who's a senior at University of Northern Iowa, Mary, who's a sophomore at Northwestern in Orange City, Aubrey, who's a senior in high school, and Levi, who's a senior in high school too, or a freshman in high school. And we are really have been enjoying being part of Harvest since our move back here about 10 years ago, actually, almost to the month. Just August was 10 years. We've moved back from Wisconsin, where my wife grew up, and where we spent the first 15 years of our marriage.
Awesome. Well, we love having you a part of our church family. And of course, I bet over the years, I think people have probably seen almost every one of your family leading worship at one point or another. And you guys been great gifts to our whole church family. But I don't know, many people do know, but I'm sure many don't know what you do on a day-to-day basis. And I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about your work with Intervarsity, maybe even a little bit about your history to get us up to date and how you got started with Intervarsity campus ministry.
Yeah. Well, Intervarsity is a big part of our story in that Sarah and I got to know one another through an undergraduate Intervarsity work in Wisconsin, where we met. And it was really formative for both of us. Intervarsity is a campus ministry you'll find all over the United States, and there happened to be a chapter of that there in Wisconsin at Carroll College. And for me, it was a place where I really met Jesus as an adult and decided to follow him with my life and to put my attention and the leadership of my life into his hands and his care. And so it was super formative for me. I'd say I became a Christian through the community of Intervarsity. And for Sarah, she came to campus already really committed to following Jesus and applying his life to her life. And Intervarsity was a place where she was challenged to then follow him and lead others in following him. And so both of us had really formative experiences as undergraduates in Intervarsity. We were engaged to be married before Sarah's graduation, and I had been working for Pella Windows there in Wisconsin. I'd graduated a couple of years before Sarah, and we considered going on staff with Intervarsity to undergraduates at that time. We were asked to do that, and Sarah was ready to be out of college for a while. And so we said, no, we don't want to do that. And we got married that next summer and started our life together, and both working jobs. And then we spent some time in prayer after being married, about 6 months. And God really spoke to us about reconsidering that invitation to be a part of the ministry of Intervarsity. And we happened to get a phone call from our staff worker who does what I do that same week that we were praying. And he asked us if we'd reconsider. And we said, God, you're really aligning our hearts, and we'll say yes this time. And so we did. And that was back in 2001, we started on staff with Intervarsity, working with undergraduates at 2 schools in Wisconsin.
Mm, nice. I love a story like that where God intervenes and makes it so apparent. Like, hey, Chad and Sarah, in this case, Chad and Sarah, this is the way to go. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. It,
that's
it
cool, and that's really become your career, your life's work now to this point.
It has. It has. So for 15 years, we were committed to 2 schools they sent us to in Wisconsin. We didn't choose those schools, and we probably wouldn't have chosen them at our first impression of them. But God chose us to go there, and so we did. And it was a great experience for us to learn to follow Him and trust Him and share Him with undergraduate students. And so we were at 2 schools in the Kenosha Racine area of Wisconsin. And we were just committed to that place and those schools until God would move us somewhere else. And after 14 years there, we felt kind of a stirring, or I did especially, to take some time again to pray and ask God direction for our lives. And it was at that time that God really reminded me of His care for us no matter where we would go, and to ask what else was happening in our life at that time. And there was 2 things that was happening. One was my dad was a little quite ill from Parkinson's, and there was an invitation to be a part of his last years of life in that part of his journey. And there was a need for planting InterVarsity chapters, for starting new work. And I had kind of caught the planting bug. And so I called Iowa, the regional director in Iowa, and said, is there any opportunities for us to come to be a part of InterVarsity in Iowa and to do ministry there? And he said, well, yeah, we've been praying for Iowa State University for many years that someone would come and take up the work there. And so I said, well, let us kind of make sure this is the right thing. And so we continued to pray. And then we said yes to that invitation too, to move back. And so our first 5 years back here, we worked exclusively with undergraduates, again, starting an undergraduate chapter. But then after those 5 years and through the challenge of the pandemic, God kind of moved in us to consider something else. We were getting older. College students were staying the same age, and we were feeling a draw to work with people maybe at a different season in life. And over the years, we'd had the honor of working with graduate students, especially at Iowa State, and getting to know InterVarsity's work with faculty. And it just seemed like what God was doing in us at that time. And there's also a need for that at Iowa State. And so about
Yeah,
5 years ago, yeah,
I love this, Chad, because you and I were just even talking earlier today, and we were talking about the fact that when people think about campus ministry, they think about working with 19-year-olds, which you certainly did your fair share of that kind of work, and I'm thankful for that. And yet, I love this part of your story where you say, "Well, God had something else for us, and a new group of people to interact with, and now we get to hear about maybe something that's a little bit on the different side of things when it comes to ministry on a college campus, where you've mentioned working with grad students and faculty. So would you share? Yeah, keep sharing about
yeah,
that.
yeah. So we said yes to that. It was a blessing to come alongside a retired faculty who had been steering the faculty work at Iowa State, and to learn from him. And I continue to do so, learning the rhythms of faculty life, and learning some of the challenges of being faculty, and learning the university even in a more in-depth, maybe intimate way as working with faculty. And part of that has also been learning about the journey of students beyond undergraduate before they become faculty, as they consider their studies in graduate school, and working and studying as PhDs or even postdocs. And so I've gotten to do a little bit of that as well. On the graduate side, it's been really exciting to continue that desire to plant something by
Hmm.
starting a new group at Iowa State. And we were praying for God to lead us to some students that weren't involved. There's some great ministry happening at Iowa State in many levels, but we were asking God to lead us to those students that were kind of outside of those networks. And He's led us some wonderful graduate students. We meet with them weekly to talk about who they're becoming in their careers and what they're studying. And we have the opportunity to read short kind of devotional material on a weekly basis, no extra work for them outside of the classroom. They can just show up and we read something from an academic, someone that might be in one of their careers that they could relate to, or if they shared from outside of their career, they could contextualize it to their academic field, and also learn about some of the struggles of being in academia and some of the ways that we can flourish in academia and be a blessing to the university. And so I get to do that with a handful of students every week, and we're growing as a community, and growing in our influence, wanting there to be that kind of community available in every discipline. Wouldn't that be awesome if you came to graduate school and you could meet a group of graduate students who are following Jesus in your lab or in your field?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I recall from our conversations as well that you you not talk about not only starting a group and inviting students to a group to discuss and connect around, like you described, around some readings, devotional, but also helping students to start their own groups as well. Am I
Yeah.
remembering that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So our hope is that if you're part of one of these groups, you can experience community, and then as God leads you, you could be empowered to do the same thing in the networks that you have. And so we've had that happen recently in the math department, which has been super exciting. And then we're considering other places, and it might not be department specific, but definitely graduate students have all the skills, talents, gifts, and abilities to lead wonderful small communities that encounter Jesus on campus.
Mm.
And so that's what we're hoping. And so we're asking God to stir the students that are part of our groups to consider, as they feel led, to start a group like the one we're doing.
Mm. That's great. I love it. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then you also you have work with faculty that you're doing as well, which I think is
Yeah.
really interesting to hear about. Would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Uh, it's been like I said before, it's a real honor to come alongside faculty who are experts in their field and be a part of their life on campus and part of their career as an academic. And so at Iowa State, we have actually a long-standing faculty community that meets monthly, and we meet to hear from faculty most often, where they'll come and share. Faculty are excellent presenters, and they have wonderful discoveries that they're making within each one of their fields respectively. And as Christians, they have this beautiful ability to share not only what they're discovering, but how they're seeing these discoveries through their lenses as Christians, and
Mm.
how they're discovering God more profoundly, and God is revealing himself in each one of the things that they're studying. So on a monthly basis, we have a faculty share maybe something like that, or they might share something really personal about how, for example, how they became a Christian, sometimes even becoming Christians as faculty and sharing about their journey. Just last year, we had a faculty share about how they had gone through graduate, their PhD work, had a wonderful career, had gotten married, had children, and then had some really traumatic things happen in their life, and we're kind of at a loss, and we're really upset at everything that was happening in their life, and uh, God somehow brought them to Iowa State, and they encountered a faculty at Iowa State that saw that they were hurting and that they needed someone to pray for them, and so they prayed for them, and then they also invited them to come and study the Bible with them and other graduate PhD students. And so they studied the Bible together, and this now faculty became a follower believer in Jesus, and it changed their life and their family's life. Their son was recently baptized as a believer in Jesus also. And um, so sometimes we have faculty share personally about how they came to faith. Um, and then other times we'll have faculty share about, as believers, something they're learning about their walk with God. And recently we had a faculty share about how he was learning about what it means to be an apprentice to Jesus in his discipline,
Mm.
and was challenging other faculty to do the same, to become more holistic, transformed followers of God. So it's just an honor for me to come alongside faculty and to learn from them, and share with them following Jesus.
I love it. That's just so interesting. I enjoy hearing you talk about this work. And remind me, is this a group that existed before you started this work, and you've provided some help and some support and leadership to the group, or is it a group that you've gathered, or can you remind me
Yeah.
what that looks like?
Yeah. So unlike the graduate group, the faculty group has been existing for several decades, I think. I don't know the exact start time. You could find it on the website if you go to Intervarsity or Iowa State as Christian Faculty and Staff Association.
Mm.
And it's kind of an independent group in some ways, in that it's led by the faculty themselves. They are the leaders, um, and and so I have just come alongside, providing some support for that, trying to create more community, and more on ramps for younger, newer faculty, or maybe faculty that are outside of the community, to come and learn about being part of Christian faculty and staff at Iowa State. They don't have to be a Christian. They could come along just to learn and to be part of the community, and we would love that. Um, so we've done that. And then the other thing as staff we do is help facilitate unique outreaches to the university. One of the ways we do that is partnering with an organization called Veritas Forum, which is a lecture series is held across the country. And it's trying to bring in academic lectures to engage the university within a field, and then partnering with the university. And so at Iowa State, we partner with the Committee on Lectures. And those faculty also have the uniqueness of having a Christian faith. And so they're able to share both about their specific discipline, but also about how, as a Christian, it might affect their way that they see that. And so it's been a wonderful thing to be a part of helping facilitate that, or really plan that, I guess. Oftentimes the facilitating is done by the faculty themselves.
Yeah, and that's, if I remember right, that is something that the public can come to, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if somebody was
Yeah.
watching this, you should know, if that sounds interesting to you, you could go to one of these Veritas forums. Is there some way for
Mhm.
people to find out about that, or?
Good question.
Mhm.
Oftentimes it's with the Committee on Lectures, or always it's through the Committee on Lectures. So you could go to Iowa State website and see if there's any Veritas Forum associated talks. You could go to the Veritas Forum, I think, on the web, search Veritas Forum and see if there's an upcoming talk. We usually try to do our talks in the spring semester. So we're looking to bring a talk this spring. Actually, we just met for the first time with faculty to start to plan that last week. And we don't have an exact date yet, but we'll hopefully have another Veritas Forum. And, I think one of the things that maybe we'd like to do in the future is to make more of these wonderful presentations that faculty make available um, to the broader Ames community.
Yeah.
Faculty are such a great resource to the church, and um, their understanding of their field and their faith is something that's a real blessing, and we think that's a blessing for the whole community.
Yeah, I'd agree. We have a number of faculty here that are part of our church family, and I'm
Yeah,
so thankful for them. They're a blessing to our church for sure. Well,
Absolutely.
it's been awesome hearing about these different areas of ministry. I wonder if would you be willing to leave us with a story, something that God's up to that you're excited about, or something along
Mhm.
those lines, Chad?
Yeah, I do have like 10 stories that kind of run in my head, but um, I'm really excited about two things. I like we talked before. I think the opportunity for graduate students, PhD students, postdoc students to encounter a community that just is um, life giving. We have this kind of shared experience that we oftentimes can grumble about, and kind of have camaraderie about around the challenges. But what I've heard from students as we've met together, graduate students, that is, and PhD students, is that the difference of in our grumbling when we come together, if we do, is that we leave with a sense of hope and a sense of promise from God that He's with us in our most challenging difficulties, and He's there to sustain us, and He's there to reveal Himself to us in our academic life. And so, um, I'm so excited about creating communities like that. Um, that not only are transformative for the individual, but also for the broader community, for the broader discipline, for the different labs and the research that's going on at Iowa State. Um, so that faculty that I mentioned before that became a believer. Before she was following Jesus, her personality or her demeanor maybe was not hopeful. It wasn't full of joy. The people that were in her lab were somewhat afraid of her
Mm,
as very intimidating and harsh. And the transformative work of Jesus changed her, and you would never
mm.
think of that if you met her today. So um, I'm excited about that kind of transformation that changes the individual and then changes the
Yes.
university.
Yes. Yes. May it be so. That is awesome.
Yeah,
And thank you for mentioning that that hope, but we have hope, and that really changes our experience no matter where we are, including at the university. And
yeah,
at
that's right.
at our church, we talk about that too. That we need to bring hope into our world. Like our world needs hope. It's lacking hope, and so it's a really powerful thing when we can meditate on Jesus and receive hope from Him in the midst of whatever we're going through. So.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Chad. Thanks for updating us and sharing what's happening. It's been great talking with you and hearing from you. And I want to mention to everybody, anybody who's watching today, that if you want to find out more about Chad and Sarah and their work at Iowa State, if you got energized by that, reach out to them. Their info is going to be in the description for the video here below. And of course, if you want to inquire about anything about praying for them or supporting them financially, that's a great thing to do. Or if you want to find out more about the Veritas Forum, I bet you can reach out to Chad and he can help you know more about that. Yep. So thanks for being
Awesome.
with us today, Chad. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Great to be with you.
Okay. See you.
See ya.